Hi, everybody. It's Karen Sullivan with LifeHealthMore.net, and I'm glad to be with you here today to talk about the meaning of life. This is a really deep subject, and it's something that we're trying to tackle in the month of June to get an idea and a handle on what we want to be when we grow up. That's a true thing. Really, it is. We have our jobs, we have our families, we have life that goes on, but we really want to make sure that we are getting the most out of life and contributing to life for other people also. And so, the point of what I'm doing is trying to explain to you what my motivation is in my work in a way to try to help you to see what perhaps a path toward understanding your motivation and understanding your why, the big answers, the ways to get around life. And, why are we doing this? What are we doing? And so I did a lot of research. Today's subject is specifically about happiness and joy because I thought it was important to start with happiness and joy. It is, because we really want ourselves to be happy and our children to be happy. And so anyway, I did some research and I read through some of the different web pages and blogs, and then Psychology Today, and approached it from several viewpoints, and there are totally conflicting opinions. I mean there were times where they were saying happiness is external, and then another article or another story or another web page would say happiness is internal. And some of these were from sources that were supposed to be science, at least mind science. We're talking psychology, psychotherapy, those sorts of things. And then, some people said that happiness is what leads to joy, that you can't have just joy alone. And it was really confusing. And all it did was frustrate me. And frustration leads to anger, resentment, and fear, and all that negative stuff that we don't want to live like that. So I'm going to tell you what my version is. And part of this is based on that book, The Book of Joy, that I'm doing in the book club that's on Becca Wills's page, Live Your Creative Life. Great opportunity, guys, if you want to join the book club. Now, at this point, Sunday is when we meet to talk about the book, and it's exciting, but you can always just jump in on the next book or go to the library, like I said, on Monday and get the book from the library and start to read it, because it's great. It really is. It's the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Tutu are friends and are discussing joy. And it's a good read, very good read. Okay. So what I want us to talk about is, what we want in life. And so we know, and if you don't agree with me, then just make a comment that you don't agree with me. But right now I'm starting off saying, okay, we want to be healthy. We want to be secure and safe. Okay. We want to have stimulation and be engaged mentally as well as emotionally and physically. Okay. And we want to be loved, and we want to be happy. We want to have happiness in our lives. And so when I am coaching someone, and I do that one-on-one coaching, we talk most of the time about stress, illness, and unhappiness. And most often it originates in the mind, and then it happens in the physical life. Or our lives are going along and we're doing really well. Things are great and we're happy and there's stable, and then something happens in your life, whether it's an injury or not even a big deal. Maybe you have written a paper for a class if you're in college and you don't get the grade that you think you deserve. And it can, do one of two things. It can make you feel like you need to understand more, go back to the professor, get their opinion, find out really what happened. Did you miss the point? What was going on? Or you can just buck up and say, okay, next time I didn't do as much research. I really need to work on it more. I didn't give it the time it needs. And then the next opportunity that we have, or the next possibility, is that we can react. and we can say, oh, we're so stupid, I'm so bad, I'm not a terrible student, I shouldn't have done this, or the professor is bad, and this reaction comes, and it's emotions that come up, and it ruins our day. And from that point on, you have the possibility of spiraling down and down and down, and then you get angry and ugly, and it's not attractive at all. So reacting to events, it can make things very, very difficult for you, because it will lead you into a downward negative spiral. I always say to my clients, don't go down the rabbit hole. Don't cross that bridge and get to the bad feeling and grab a hold of the bad feeling. You can actually refuse to accept that bad feeling, look for the positive, and flip it over. But it takes practice. You really have to practice, and you have to learn to pay attention, being mindful to how you're responding and handling something. Okay? I think of it as being, this is my analogy, and then I'm going to share one that one of my clients shared with me the other day. My analogy is, imagine that you are doing your gardening, okay? You get out in the garden, you have some beautiful flowers, you've got some gorgeous vegetable plants, and you're planting these, you've got them in the ground, they're growing, they're lovely, and you see that there's poison ivy in the garden. Well, you have a choice of dealing with the poison ivy and getting rid of it, or it could be something that you begin to cultivate, whether you don't realize it or not, but you cultivate the poison ivy, and as you cultivate the poison ivy, it takes over the garden, chokes out all of your vegetables and everything. Besides, it's caustic, it's abrasive, it's horrible, and so you end up with negativity through your garden. Everything's wiped out. Nobody can appreciate it, especially you, especially if you're allergic to it, right? And so that's, we choose what we're going to cultivate. We choose the things that we're going to work with. Now, the story that she was telling me is actually the garden. I've been in the garden a lot, this summer. And so that was my analogy. And this was the one my client shared with me, that there was a young man, it's an Indian, American Indian, and he asked his grandfather, the grandfather was explaining to him that there are two wolves within each man, a good wolf and a bad wolf, an evil, vicious wolf and a good wolf. And so the boy asked him, well, which one will survive? Which one will, win the battle between the good part of us and the bad part of us? And the grandfather said, whichever one you feed. So remember that when you are starting to react in a situation, because it won't get you closer to happiness, it will actually feed the beast a little bit more, and it'll become more and more strong. And that's the way you'll be. It's the person you'll turn into. Okay. So the benefits of being calm, peaceful, and having joy are so many, so numerous. In the first place, you'll have more friends. People are going to enjoy being around you. It is a nice, peaceful way to live. It's a calm way to live. You will have better blood pressure and heart rates. You won't have any gastrointestinal issues. You will probably not have anxiety and mental anguish. There are all the possibilities of it too. And in the book that the Dalai Lama is talking about, the Book of Joy, one of the things that he mentions is just noticing the joy and noticing the people there. And that when he greets someone, the author of the book is talking about when the Dalai Lama greets someone, he shakes their hand, and he always sort of strokes their hand or pats it, and he looks in their eyes. And the traditional Tibetan way of greeting is then to put your forehead against the other person, and you are taking that moment and stopping everything that you're doing so that you can appreciate the person, the individual in front of you. And so how often have you been in the grocery store? I'm not asking you to put forehead to forehead with the grocery clerk, but you can stop and look at them, and then make sure they look at you, and you get to say with your eyes, I appreciate you. I see you as a human being, and smile and say, have a great day. That will create joy in you. And that's the thing that Archbishop Tutu and the Dalai Lama are talking about in this book, is recognizing how you can get joyful and happiness by appreciating other people. And we'll talk more about that at another time. But I think that instead of always thinking about having to make it yourself, because when you try to make yourself joyful, you try to make yourself happy, what does it turn out to be? It turns out to be that you're all introspective. Everything's about you. Everything's about hooray, hooray, yay for me. And you don't even acknowledge that there are people around you, that there are people else on the staircase walking down the stairs at the office. And, you know, everything is about, I'm going to be happy and I'm going to do this. It's all me, me. That's not any way to live. So one of the way I'd like to emphasize that the call to action for today is to build a healthy body and mind. Okay. And I encourage you to try to do some meditation, sitting quietly. I do one-on-one coaching and can help you with that too if you're interested. There's also a video on my YouTube channel that does that, and also here on Facebook. But go ahead and check those out and see if you can get to try and cultivate a mental immunity, so that you aren't going to be angry about everything in life, that you're going to stop and breathe through any kind of altercation that comes up, and recognize that the other person's a human being. And, you know, I'm realizing I'm lumping an awful lot into this. Happiness and joy, they certainly are the point of life. They are really important, because otherwise, what's the flip side of that? The flip side of that is negativity, anger, aggression. And that's what the world has way too much of. So we have to shift the emphasis from that. Think about meditating. Think about coaching with me. Give me a call. Contact me on Facebook or on YouTube, or those of you that know how to get in touch with me on the phone should do that, please. We want to be the best version of ourselves, and I want you to have the best possible life for yourselves and your families. So that's what I'm going to be emphasizing in the coming weeks, that we're going to talk about how to help feel better, and not only for yourself, but for your family, your neighborhood, your community, your country, and the world eventually, right? So let's act like we can make a difference, because we can, one person at a time, one moment at a time. And I invite you to join me so that we can make life a better thing.